Alright, it's dark and it's late at night, but let's do a quick video because that's one long bit of writing that hopefully makes sense. Here's one of the swords that I fixed up, tightened up. Here's another one. This is the Shirley sword one, so that's what I'll show you. Let me get some space here. Move stuff. Alright, is that going to focus? So, Fuchi, Mikugi, pins, Ito wrap, ray skin, also called Same underneath, Kashira, butt cap, Seppa are the little spacers on either side of the Tsuba. So you're going to pull the pins out, which you've already done. You've seen the crack inside. This is all sealed up, so I can't take it apart to show you. So you're going to get everything off. You're going to use epoxy almost on pretty much any katana that isn't super tightly wrapped by a pro. The Kashira will be loose and can be made much more loose by wiggling it and pulling it up a little bit. So the Ito will stretch. Get that loosened off, just stretched out, still sewn together, wrapped together, but get it loose. Get the epoxy, and I use toothpicks or a brush or whatever and jam epoxy up in there. Press it back into place. Use tape or something else to tighten it down. On the Fuchi right here, same thing, get glue up in it and glue it back down. When you're doing the Fuchi, make sure that you've got the opening. Ana is hole in Japanese, so the Fuchi ana, open. To get the Nakago back in, which is tang in Japanese, so get that back in. This will glue up or epoxy up and get set, and then take your lacquer. Any lacquer will do. I have it in the house because it's too cold in my garage, but like a Watco, simple, regular lacquer. Doesn't really matter what it is. It says it's lacquer on the can. Get that. And some lacquer thinner, 50-50 mix is usually pretty good. And a brush. Mix it in a little glass bowl or something like that. Then use the brush and brush it in. Get it right into the corners everywhere. Anywhere you can get it. Real tight in there. Brush it all around. Get it on the ray skin, whatever you need. Brush it all on this. Nice even coat. Let it dry. Do a second coat if you want to. It does harden up nicely, but you can still feel some movement if you really press it and want to. But it's a stiffer feeling. I think it still feels great. It doesn't hurt your hands to use. Just basically strengthens the blade, and is lacquering the Ito is something that was done traditionally. Alright, then you're going to leave that to set up and for the lacquer to dry. You're all good there. Then making sure that you've got your sword, that is the blade, the Seppa, the Tsuba, and the other Seppa ready to roll. You're going to take your Suka and get epoxy into it as far as you can, hence the long stir stick or long skinny brush. Get glue up in there. You don't really need to put glue on the Nakago itself. It's such a tight fit probably for you that as you push that in, if it's got a thin layer of glue right on the sword's tang, that's just going to scrape off all at the mouth of the Suka. So that's why you want to jam it all in there. Keep in mind that as you're pressing the Nakago in, glue is going to want to pop out of the holes where the Mikugi go. So you want to be ready to wipe that off so it doesn't look too gross on the sword. Sometimes wiping quickly helps, but you may have a little shine left. If you're careful and you know what you're doing, just by taking your time to watch what you do, you should be fine. Get that epoxy in there and then get the Nakago in there. If you have to hold the blade in one hand, and as the blade would be held in my one hand here, I would be tapping the top of it with a rubber mallet. I wouldn't do it while holding on to the saya like this. I would actually use a thick towel and hold the blade itself. A nice tight grip. And if you're careful, should do the job of tapping it on the last little bit that it might need without cutting yourself. Just be sure to be careful. As long as you're being conscious of what you're doing, you should be fine. I've done it before. You can also take the sword, of course, by blade and toss it into a vise. If you have one, use some leather or some cloth or something so that the vise grips don't bite down on the blade and damage itself, mar the blade itself. But the idea is that you're going to get a tight fit here, and you're going to have it pressed in and held in permanently with epoxy, and you're going to have that epoxy push itself into all the cracks that may be inside that Suka. So they're going to fill up those cavities, and make it one solid locked piece. At that point, you're going to set your Mikugi pins in place again. Hopefully you've got it planned out and you remember which is the the top and which side it comes in from, and which is the bottom pin and which side it comes in from. Remember, when you're setting Makugi pins in, you'll notice a grain on them, on the bamboo of them. Let's see if I can get that in focus. It's hard to focus in this low light, but there's a grain where the bamboo has all these little dots on it. Where the dots are tighter, should be pointing up towards the blade, I believe it is. Anybody remember that? Can check me on that. At any rate, get those bad boys back in place, and then set this in nice and tight. There should be no play in the Suba at that point. Everything should be a tight fit because you've locked it in as hard as you can, clear to the blade. Let it all dry, let the glue settle, and you're done. And the sword is now one permanent fixed piece here. No more taking any of that stuff apart, but that's not what you're looking to do with a beater sword. You don't want to have it assemble, disassemble, assemble, disassemble. That's going to loosen everything up over time, and it's just not what they're meant for. People like to do it because they think it's fun, because they see it done, but it's not what you should be doing with the sword. End result is a much more stable and secure and safe sword for use. And let us know how it goes. I hope it works out smooth for you. Cheers. What a sweet video of crap quality.